What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here in today's video, I'll be discussing Mr. Irrelevant, Hugo Besson, going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Now to start, as it hasn't been really reported too much, he will be a stash player, likely so. I highly doubt we see him in America this season, in the 2022-2023 season with the Milwaukee Bucks, but they have his draft rights, and whenever he does come over, whether it's the Bucks decision or his decision, he will be a Milwaukee Buck, or they will at least have the rights to him. Whether they decide to trade him in the future or not, that's to be determined. But like I said, Hugo Besson is Mr. Relevant, and that is a great selection by the Milwaukee Bucks, as all really, most at least, NBA, scouts and guys who, kind of did reports on this player had him going late first, early to mid second round, which is insane to see him fall almost undrafted. And a guy like him really should not go undrafted. He's got a ton of playmaking skills, does have to improve a little bit defensively, but we'll talk about that when we talk about his weaknesses. He's a really good shooter off the dribble, has really, really high basketball IQ. And that's really why I thought, he would be a late first round pick to a contender who maybe could use him off the bench. Now, the Bucks are one of those teams who I think could use him off the bench. But I expected them, if they got him, to get him late in the first round. They traded up with the Pacers, which was incredible by them, going up and getting a guy who could replace a guy like George Hill really in the next year, because George Hill, a little bit washed up, not the same George Hill used to be, and a guy who really, I think, fell in Hugo Besson because of his age, which I'm not a huge fan of in the NBA, in the NBA draft, where guys, they're not 18, 19, fall because they're too old. But I think a guy who's anywhere from 18 to 21, early 22s is still young. Chris Duarte was kind of a unicorn in terms of a guy who's older, who we saw go in the first round by a team like the Pacers, who really had this pick, but ended up trading it to the Milwaukee Bucks. They took him there, and just we don't see it much anymore. But now to go over his highlights, Besson is an extremely crafty guard who really uses high IQ, to kind of get by, just because he's not extremely athletic, but we've seen a ton of players get away with that, especially when they're extremely smart, and, have that kind of dog in them. Like I said, he's extremely confident, and that's exactly why I'm a huge fan of him. Comes onto the court, and you can just tell Besson wants to get to the bucket, wants to score, and wants to win. That's why I love him, and that's why I think at 58, that's a steal, and way too late for a guy like him. Anywhere in the second round, in my opinion, would have been a steal. Really an off-ball threat, probably the best off-ball, one of the best off-ball point guards in this draft. He's a playmaker, can both be off the ball and on the ball, does both, makes plays with the ball in his hands and without it. Like I said, he's a draft and stash prospect, needs some more athleticism to stand out in the modern NBA, but coming off the bench, he really doesn't need all the athleticism. In my opinion, I think Besson could be a good defender because, he's aggressive and he takes pride in playing defense. He's listed as one of his weaknesses is defensively, but I personally think he can just be good defensively. And the Bucks, I believe, he's not as bad as a defender where if he's on the court, he'll get exposed. I think the Bucks could hide him. And when he comes on the court, not have to guard the best player on the court. But I really don't think it'll be a big deal for him. Like I said, he will be a good enough defender to where the Bucks could stick him on the court and he still will fit in. Now, a big area where I think Besson needs to improve is the shot selection, which could happen. The NBL definitely is not as good as the NBA. And a ton of years we've seen guys come from the NBL and have bad shot selection and kind of force shots, and all of a sudden come to the NBA and be a completely different player in terms of shot selection, because NBA and NBL are two different things. A lot of times I believe we see guys in the NBL force the shots because, they want to stick out for scouts in the NBA where the money is higher. And all of a sudden they come to the NBA and it's like, they have someone in their ear basically tell them, you can't shoot that shot anymore. Coaches discuss with them, and all of a sudden they come in and their shot selection is so much greater. So that's what I think we'll see with Besson in the next year and a half. With the New Zealand Breakers, Besson averaged 13.9 points, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and 0.6 steals on 38.6 field goal percentage, 30.8 3-point percentage, and 79.5 free throw percentage. So we'd like to see all those, at least the 3-point and field goal percentages go up, which we will, I believe. Did well in the NBA Combine. Like I said, it was more of him trying to get his name out there and kind of stand out to scouts with some of the shot selection. But he can shoot it, showed he can shoot it off the dribble. And that's exactly why I'm a huge fan of him, his confidence. And actually on his, NBL team in the New Zealand Breakers, he was a better player than Ousmane Dieng. It's kind of sad to see a guy fall this far who, has been decent and a better player than, his teammate. But Ousmane Dieng is the project. It'll be a few years before we actually, I think, see him in meaningful minutes in the NBA, if he even gets that. Like I said, Dieng went 11th, big time playmaker when he is legit. It's just sad to see, like I said, a guy who's younger but has less skill set and is more of a project go much higher, 40 picks higher than a guy like Hugo Besson. But Besson is ready to go. He waited his time, and now, like I said, if he does come over now, I think it'll be 2 years before he steps on the court. But in terms of when he comes up, will all be determined by, I think, the Milwaukee Bucks money and that situation. Like I said, they traded for him, and it'll be a little bit of time before it's announced that he's actually a Milwaukee Buck. But like I said, George Hill hasn't been great, little older. Hugo Besson can come over and immediately make an impact for that team. Lastly, for a few guys who have been compared, or who Hugo Besson has been compared to, Evan Fournier and Tyler Hero. Those are two amazing comparisons, and I love that comparison. And really, anybody in the second round, a guy like Tyler Hero has been great in the NBA. Or I wouldn't say great, but very good in the NBA so far, and 6th man of the year. So a guy that's compared to him and Hugo Besson would be a steal at 58. I think we've seen a lot of projects, and because, like I said, the Bucks don't have the money for the trade right now, I think we'll see him come over in at least a year, maybe 2 years for the Bucks as he improves in the NBL. But anytime you can get a guy who's like Evan Fournier, who plays a major role on the Knicks, or a guy like Tyler Hero, who is a 6th man of the year, plays a major role in the Heat, and I think we'll see him start, like he's kind of voiced his wants to start after this season. So really a steal for the Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion. Won't be up immediately, but I say they give George Hill one more year off the bench. Really doesn't push the needle or move the needle. And then Hugo Besson comes over and makes his teammates better, immediately has an impact on the team. And that's, I think, and that is what we will see in the next year when they still have Giannis. Maybe still have Chris Middleton. It depends if Chris Middleton still can kind of make them a better team, or, they try to trade Chris Middleton for a high pick or a big playmaker scorer, which Chris Middleton once was. And I don't know if we still see anymore.